20 minutes on
this altogether. 10 minutes, I believe.
10 minutes each.
Look, I'm not sure if I'll use the full 10, but thank you very much, Last Ceann Comhairle, and I welcome the opportunity to speak on the Social Welfare Miscellaneous Provisions Bill 2015. And I think the first thing we need to acknowledge, I suppose, and it is good news, is the latest figures this morning from the Central Statistics Office, which has said that there's 4,300 less people on the live register this time than there were this time last month, a decrease from 10.3% down to 10.1% of the population. That's still far too high, but I think the rate of decline is increasing, and that has to be welcomed. Against that, and to contextualise that, I think the Department of Social Protection, by introducing this bill, it's a part of a suite of measures to make it obvious, or to make it more attractive for households to take up employment where available, and to avoid a situation where poverty traps are becoming more and more an issue for many sectors of our society. There's a huge issue in this country, more than any country in the European Union, with respect to jobless households. The figures presented by different institutes provide for really stark reading. And the reasons aren't clear, not to me. Maybe the Department of Social Protection might have some better background as to why our jobless households, or our figure for jobless households in a European Union context, are so high and so out of sync with other European countries. And it's creating huge social problems. And it is the leading factor in the consistent poverty rates for many sectors of our society. Combined then with figures for intergenerational unemployment and the black spots that we have both in urban and rural areas, it's quite clear that there is still quite a lot of work to be done with respect to getting and avoiding the poverty traps. And like I said, this bill, which provides, amongst other things, for transition payments for lone parents, is one of many measures that needs to be introduced to tackle what is a very, very difficult, for want of a better expression, a very difficult nut to crack in terms of getting people back onto the labour market. I am familiar with people, for example, in the area that I represent in Cork South West. Those that have been, I suppose, they're the most vulnerable in terms of labour activation. They have been probably unemployed for quite some time, many of them for years, and they would not have the ability at this stage, without careful coaching and, I suppose, nursing back to the market, that they will never get back into the labour market unless we are more proactive in how we deal with these people. Many of these have been unemployed for so long that there's a real, for example, a confidence issue. They're in a rut, quite frankly, and they see nothing beyond the weekly payment from social protection. And while the Department of Social Protection plays a very, very strong role in taking people off the system and off the register back into work, employers are more inclined to accept people who are maybe just out of college. They might be just have lost a job, for example. They mightn't be that long on the register to begin with, and they might have the necessary qualifications. They might be, they might quite frankly be, they're attractive to employ. There's quite a huge cohort of people out there that they don't fit that bill. And I know that measures, for example, like the introduction of the in-tray offices, etc., and the supervisors on the schemes are playing a very positive role in getting these people back to work. I think the department, through supervisors, through transition supervisors, could be far more proactive in identifying first those people that really, without that help, will never access work because they haven't got either the confidence, or they have some other, maybe it could be an intellectual issue, it could be a minor physical health issue, it could be a societal issue within, in the environment that they live in. They need, first of all, to be identified, and then they need to be dealt with in a very, very sensitive, proactive way. And I think when we started addressing that problem, I think we will make significant progress in our long-term unemployment figures and our jobless household figures. Without tackling those, I think we will continue to have a huge albatross around our neck following us with respect to social protection. I also think that there are other measures that could be addressed to deal with attracting people back from welfare, from the poverty traps, into employment that offers dignity, an increased standard of living, and hope. I think some simple measures, for example, like online access, where it would be quite simple to say you're entitled to a certain payment or not by just accessing an online portal, by maybe entering a PPS number or a PIN number, and if you satisfy the requirements, you get an indication very, very quickly that yes, you're entitled to X, Y and Z from the social protection, rather going through this laborious application and waiting, deciding officers and decision, and then possible appeals process and reapplication and all the rest of it. It's time-consuming, it's unwieldy, and it's in many cases it's far from efficient. The minimum wage, the new commission, the Low Pay Commission, is looking at that. I've dealt with a lot of people who are looking, or who have made comments on the Low Pay Commission and the possibility of increasing the minimum wage, which obviously I don't have a problem with. But some of them have said to me that if you increase the minimum wage, certain sectors of the labour market will decrease the hours at work, and no net benefit to those that are on low pay. That needs to be addressed, and perhaps I could suggest, that there would be a tiered structure or a scale payment structure on the minimum wage, where if you're working, for example, a 20-hour week, you'd get a slightly higher, not a lot, but a slightly higher per hour wage, and scale it as you go to 30 hours per week, you might get a slightly lower rate, and maybe to the 39th hour, you might get maybe whatever the Commission would agree on as the national minimum wage, in an effort to, I suppose, to combat employers who would decide that if the minimum wage goes up, the hours go down. I've addressed here before, I've mentioned it before, the issue on the, and it's not directly related to this bill, but I think it deserves mention. I think it's going to have to be addressed eventually, is those that have been assessed on the PRSI payments maybe over their working life, and for whatever reason, and this affects women, hugely, where they may have worked before they got married, left the workforce, no credits or no contributions for a while, back into the workforce, and when it comes to drawing a state contributory pension, they are absolutely crucified. I think that eventually will need to be addressed in some shape or form. I also, I have a concern also with the rollout of the entry offices. Where the entry offices have been rolled out, they've been a hugely positive development on the social protection system. A one-stop shop from either graduating to the workplace, or if people find themselves in the unfortunate position that they've been given their P45, as it were, that they will be reintroduced back into the workplace as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, that needs to be ramped up nationally. There are parts of this country that the social protection services are very, very fragmented. You have local offices, you have branch offices, you have CWO offices, and in many towns, and I'll give an example such as Bantry, they're in 3 or 4 different buildings. And I would appeal to the department to look again more proactively at using the entry offices template and to roll it out nationally on a quicker scale. When they do engage proactively with the system, many people are dealt with positively. However, like I said in my opening remarks, I think there will always be people who need to have that. We have to go that extra mile to display to them, to show to them the benefits and the possibilities of either further education through and on into work with dignity. Finally, last Count Corla, can I address the situation with respect to the high rate of overturned decisions on appeal? The concern here is that, look, that the frontline staff either are decisions going against, or are they taking decisions essentially that should not be taken. I think it needs further assessment, further looking at. We have a huge turnover in some claims. I'd suggest maybe in disability or in other areas where on the appeals process it overturns the initial deciding officer's decisions.
Thank you.
So to conclude, Concordia, just to welcome the bill. Again, it's a part of a suite of measures that need to be undertaken, and I look forward to further progress with respect to the jobless households in the coming months and years.
Deputy Pat Breen.